It's one of Britain's favourite dishes. Now curries got mixed up in the EU referendum debate. Restaurateurs complain that tightened immigration rules stop them bringing in skilled chefs and other staff from South Asia. The Leave campaign's promising a vote for Brexit would change that. They say without open borders to Europe, Britain could reforge its Commonwealth links. I was invited to sample the best Bangladesh could offer up by way of Sutton Coldfield. But do these curry house owners buy the Leave argument?
Got 2 places for sale. Only reason is a staff shortage.
Do you blame the EU for that? Or do you blame the government for that?
Definitely EU, and the second is government.
I'd like to leave the EU.
Why?
And have it control migration, but it's not all open borders. We don't know where we stand at the moment. And if we, obviously with the Commonwealth, we'll get more migration from there as well.
If you leave, that's what you believe?
Yeah, I believe.
So you have picked up that message from the Leave campaign?
Yeah.
People who come from Europe, they're no good for us at all.
People who has no experience, people who even could not stand the smell of aromatic spices. How come you justify to recruit them, put them in a kitchen?
Can't you train them up?
They're not interested, full stop.
The Prime Minister appeared on the Birmingham-based Sikh channel recently, arguing the case for Remain. British and minority ethnic voters could decide this referendum. According to the British election study, unlike white voters who appear evenly split on the issue, 2/3 of the BAME community wants to stay in the EU.
It's going to be largely a Remain vote from many, many Sikhs across the country. And certainly from our programming, we've been out in the Sikh community and we are getting an overwhelming sense that people want to stay as a part of the EU, because this issue really is about segregation and separation, and the Sikh community strongly believe in one world and one society.
As well as live news and daily prayers, the Sikh channel is running a nightly referendum programme up to the vote.
I know Vote Leave has sort of raised the idea that if we stop being a member of the EU, we'll be able to close our borders, which means we'll be able to not take EU migrants necessarily and choose to bring people in from the Commonwealth instead. Is that resonating at all with you or anyone?
I don't think that resonates with the Sikh community very deeply, because it seems to be a bit of a shallow argument. We'll replace one type of migration with another type of immigrant or migration. That doesn't seem to be ring true. And if there's any Asian communities who are supporting that sort of stance, there may be some self-interest in that. They want to see people from their home countries be preferred.
Long before EU citizens set up home in the UK, immigrants from Britain's colonies were moving here, filling jobs created after the Second World War. When Britain last held a referendum on Europe, many argued we were turning our backs on the Commonwealth and those close historical ties. The Commonwealth diaspora helped make the West Midlands the UK's most ethnically diverse region outside London, and it's a key battleground for the ethnic minority vote in June.
I'm going to buy this soup for my son, please.
Mrs. Chugtai and her husband moved to Birmingham from Kashmir in the 60s. He worked in a factory, she started her own venture.
Was it you who set up the shop?
Yeah.
You started the shop. You were the one with the vision.
She's a little camera shy. Her son now runs the place and he's a keen outer.
Most of the products that we sell now are manufactured outside of Europe. So if we were to be able to have trade agreements with countries like China, with India, with Commonwealth countries, we would be able to be much more competitive on these goods coming over from there. We're paying into a club which we personally don't see a benefit out of. What I would like is a fair immigration system.
Do you feel there's an irony in the fact that somebody like you, whose parents came over, you were immigrants originally, and now you're complaining about newer immigrants?
No, immigration is good for a country. if we had a system which was fair, which went all around the world, so we get the best people from around the world. So we're able to get computer programmers from India, we're able to get nurses, doctors from any of the Commonwealth countries where they speak our language, they have the same law systems and everything as us. It's much easier. So immigration isn't the problem, it's the levels of immigration.
Across town at Birmingham's Mac Gallery, an exhibition by Barbara Walker of the contribution made by black servicemen and women to Britain's armed forces. A visual reminder of our Commonwealth heritage. But amongst the people we gathered here, all of Caribbean descent, few saw those links as a decider in the referendum.
For me, unity is strength. If UK leave Europe, UK will be on its own. So I think it would have a devastating effect on businesses. I know a lot of people are quite emotional about this and say, you know, we're losing our jobs to people from abroad. But
For you, it's an economic argument.
yes, indeed.
When we have historically been the great nation that Britain managed to carve itself out to be, a big part of that was our link to the Commonwealth, there was our link to other parts of the world that actually helped us to gain our strength economically and politically. I think we're in a different world now. We don't know what's going to happen if we separate. And whilst some are arguing that yes, it could be better, that could is a really, really big could.
I feel that some of the discussions and the things that people want to change are about really taking away some of the support mechanisms for people right at the bottom of society. If it wasn't for Europe, we wouldn't have a number of protections around maternity leave and the 48-hour rule. And if we remove all the protections, then I fear that those sorts of communities will be exploited.
Older voters are more likely to be for Brexit, but that's not how Rakeem Omar sees it.
My grandfather, for example, he came over here in the 60s from Jamaica. So it took around 6 weeks to get here, and he really fought for a better life. And coming here, really working after World War II, the country was completely dismantled. And I think helping with others to put that together, working, in the NHS, building our country back again, to really build a stronger, European Union as well as obviously the UK. I think to leave that EU would really take away that legacy.
There was one leaver amongst them.
In the more recent past, Britain did things slightly differently, and therefore we've got a lot more Caribbeans, a lot more Africans, a lot more Indians in the UK by ratio compared with the other European countries, and I just feel that being out of the EU could potentially allow us to build those relationships again.
Will ethnic minority voters decide this referendum? Operation Black Vote said today a third of Britain's 4 million or so BAME voters aren't actually registered. Today, the organisation released this controversial poster in an attempt to encourage them to do so. Because minority voters' apparent support of Remain could prove decisive, but only if they turn out to vote.